For the sake of time, I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Brawley City Council and successor agency to the Brawley Community Redevelopment Agency. It's our regular meeting of Tuesday, November the 5th, 2013 at 6 p.m. Roll call.
The meeting will reflect our council members present.
Thank you. Invocation, Pastor Ramon Arroyo, the Brawley Foursquare Church. Pastor.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council and everybody here in the City Council chambers. Tonight I have a word that I want to define according to the Webster's Dictionary. The word is invocation. The word invocation means the act of asking for help or support, especially from God. The second definition is a prayer for blessing or guidance at the beginning of a service, a ceremony, and I added this one, city council meeting. And this is the word that the Lord has given me to express to all of you tonight. We must not take lightly or for granted the invocation in these meetings, because we and the city of Brawley need divine help and divine guidance. We are not that intelligent to make the best decisions for ourselves and this city. We are not strong enough to solve our problems and the problems of this city. We need supernatural help. And only God knows what is best for Brawley and for our personal lives. And before I say a word of prayer, I want to quote one of our founding fathers. His name is George Washington. He said, "It is impossible to rightly govern a nation without God and the Bible." And I want to add this: it is impossible to rightly govern a city without God and the Bible. I'm going to ask everybody to bow your heads now and bow your hearts. And let's all agree in prayer. Heavenly Father, this evening we come before you. First of all, to ask for forgiveness for the times that we have taken you for granted in this council. Forgive us for the decisions that we have made without consulting you and the Bible. Heavenly Father, please help us to honor you and remember you always in our lives and in our city council meetings. And finally, Heavenly Father, we ask, please bless this council tonight with wisdom, with understanding to make the right choices and decisions. And please bless the city of Brawley with peace and prosperity. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor.
Pastor Arroyo, thank you.
Don Campbell, the Pledge of Allegiance because of the time. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to approval of the agenda.
Before we do that, I want to say to the pastor, thank you so much for those words this evening, Father. That really hits home. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
So move.
Okay.
Second.
We may dispense with some of the agenda, the minor informational items as we move along tonight for the sake of time, so just to let everybody know that. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anything from the public? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we go into public appearances or comments not to exceed 4 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. Then mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name for the record. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. Please direct your questions and comments to the city council. Anybody from the public that would like to present anything? Oh, Chris. Come forward.
For the sake of time, I'll try to be quick. What's the status, Chris Ferguson, 649 Main Street? What's the status on the Gold Line? It's a couple of months late, I believe, so.
It's scheduled to come online December 2013,
Okay.
and based on communication we've had as recent as this week, we are very much hoping to bring it live before the close of the calendar year.
Right, but it is on time. We just approved the route schedule just recently at ICTC, so it looks like it's going to be in motion before the end of the year.
And is it similar to the one that was on the, that was approved here?
Yes. Yes.
The actual circulator route and stop locations were approved by the Brawley City Council. And then the question that was outstanding was whether or not the federal government shutdown was going to delay release of funds for our processing of the purchase of the vehicles. That's the big item at this point, is acquisition of the vehicles necessary. And we did receive an update this week, and we're hopeful that we're able to celebrate bringing that service line live for circulator services within city limits.
And a secondary question, is there going to be a ribbon cutting for the transit center? 'Cause
The direction that I have received from council and communicated to the Transportation Commission is that the greatest celebration is bringing the service live. So as soon as we have a guaranteed date where the vehicles are available, we'll time the celebration of the transit station opening along with the expansion of services.
All right, we got to be quick, get over.
All right. Okay, thanks. Okay, any other member of the public wishing to address the council? If not, we'll move forward to item 3, that's the consent agenda. Oh, I'm sorry, somebody?
Is there
Anyone over here?
No.
Okay.
Okay, then we'll move forward. Items are approved in one motion. Council members or members of the public may request consent items be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. Anybody want to pull or change anything on the consent agenda?
make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Okay, I have a
Second.
motion. I have a second. Any discussion?
Just congratulations to Chuck. Congratulations, Chuck.
Any comment from the public? Okay. If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, now we'll go to regular business, item 4. And 4A is a presentation by Sarah Steimel regarding community project to honor and recognize Brawley residents for their military service. Sarah?
Sarah has a PowerPoint presentation for us
okay.
this evening.
Okay.
You guys can see that.
If you
Yeah,
want-
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm
I
sorry
know it's
to
hard
reach
to
it.
see.
This little corner here.
want help
is
further,
probably the
Donnie?
fastest
Yeah.
and easiest.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
right
hardest
there.
one to see. All right.
All right, I wanted to thank you all for letting me come here today and speak. My name is Sarah Steimel, and I'm a senior at BUHS, and so I wanted to give a presentation on my senior community project. So basically, I wanted to start an Armed Forces banner program. I first thought of the idea when last year my family took a trip to Big Bear, California. And when we were there, we saw that there were banners hanging down their Main Street that were honoring the active duty servicemen and women of their town. So I thought that was a really great idea. So I contacted their city council, and a woman told me that they actually based their program on a program on Rancho Cucamonga. And so I contacted them, and so they gave me information, and so I thought this would be a great program for our city, especially since we have a big military base here in Brawley. So the purpose of the project would be to honor and acknowledge the brave servicemen and women in our city who serve our country. So these are examples of the banners they have. To the left is on Big Bear City's website that shows what the banners look like, and the right is a picture that I took while I was there of the actual banner hanging up on Main Street.
Go Air Force.
So as you can see, it basically says that it would say for our banners that Brawley honors, and then it would show a picture of the serviceman or woman, and it has their name and their branch of military.
That's nice.
So So the honorees must meet these criteria. They must have served or are serving in a full-time capacity in the United States Armed Force, any branch, and they must have resided or are residing in Brawley, California. So I contacted 3 vendors in San Diego, and so we decided to go with Stats. Although it's more expensive than Vistaprint, I talked to them on the phone, and the size of the banners is the exact size as the ones we currently have, and they guaranteed that they would have outdoor banners. Since it gets pretty hot out here, we would need an outdoor type of banner. So in order to sponsor a banner, what Big Bear City did and what I think would work would be to complete an order form, which will be shown on the next slide, with a service person's first, last name, and military branch. And then they would have to include a picture of them in uniform that would have to be in color and at least 5x7. And so this would be displayed on the banner. And then we would need a photocopy of their driver's license or other identification verifying that they live in Brawley or their immediate relative lives in Brawley. And so if we wanted to have the individuals pay, they would have to include the payment of $95. But I presented this idea to the Veterans Committee, and they generously offered to pay for the first 34. So I wanted to thank them.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you're a salesperson too. That's
She has many talents, I've learned.
I think we're going to recruit you.
So this is an example of an order form. It's kind of hard to see, but basically it's the name of the service person, their branch, where they live, and just the general information. And so we could either have this on a website or print it out to collect and fill out. And so some other options for funding that I was thinking of, since not everybody can afford the $95, were that to create a fund for future banners based on just donations from either the public or from businesses. And so we could set up a POX or an online PayPal account where anyone can donate after the first 34, since the first 34 were paid for. And so that's about it.
I'm excited.
Okay. Does anybody on the council have any questions?
It's a great presentation.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ms. Steinmeier, I'm sure your parents, I can see behind you, are very, very proud, but that was a great presentation and a great project. I mean, I think any of us watching that, it'll strike a chord, so what a great honor.
Yeah.
And I do want to say, and in my travel to Skag, a lot of times we stay in Rancho Cucamonga, and they have some of that same idea on one of their main avenues. And I do want to say you can put me down for the 35th banner. I'll be more than happy to volunteer for that, dear. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very nice.
Our city manager, we do have some of the hardware there, but I know it's older and some of it's not functioning correctly. Do you see any?
We're currently, our biggest challenge when we change out the banners, which we recently did for Cattle Call festivities, is the lack of equipment to reach the height of the banners. But we do have scheduled the acquisition of that piece of equipment this fiscal year, and I hope to have it moving forward. I have had an opportunity to discuss this proposed program with Ms. Steimel, and I think it's a wonderful partnership for the city that requires very minimal involvement, and it's part of our normal practice to change out those banners. So I think it'd be a great way to, perhaps celebrate any number of occasions during a calendar year that are relevant to honoring our men and women in military service.
Okay.
And I think Chief Perazzo would volunteer his services.
We always did.
Yes.
They always do. I think,
Get a
yes,
new
that's
truck to be
true.
able to supervise.
Excellent.
Sounds great.
Sounds like
Fantastic
sounds
work.
like a very
great presentation. It takes a lot of courage to come up here and present in front of any group. But very impressed, and I wish you well in your future endeavors. What are your plans after high school?
Well, I'm planning on going to college somewhere on the East Coast.
There you go.
Okay.
I'm sure you're going to do well and be very successful, so congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
Great
You're going to
job.
outdo your brothers, right?
Right there.
Hopefully.
Okay.
You present better than we all do, so congratulations. But that's not hard, so I don't know if that's a compliment to you.
Very good.
But great job.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right,
Thank
very
you.
good, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, moving right along to 4B, award bid to Hazard Construction Company for project number 2013-14 Hangar Area Asphalt Rehabilitation and Drainage Improvements Project in the amount of $3,474,358.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council members. Yasmin Arellano, Public Works Director. The Airport Hangar Area Asphalt Rehabilitation and Drainage Improvement Project is funded by the Federal Aviation Administration under an airport improvement project in the amount for a grant for $4 million with a 10% local match. The City of Brawley executed the grant agreement with FAA on this particular project on September the 18th of 2012. The FAA allows the agency 12 months to perform preliminary engineering, issue a request for statements of qualifications, to hire a qualified consultant, to finish the plans and specifications, to advertise them for competitive bids, and to make a recommendation for award to the Federal Aviation Administration. On August 9th, the city advertised this particular project for competitive bids, and on September 13th, the city received 6 construction bids. A complete review of the bids by city staff, the consultant, and by FAA staff yield that the 2 lowest bidders were considered non-responsive. City staff discussed the possibility with FAA staff of rejecting all bids and re-advertising the project for competitive bids. FAA responded that the 3-month delay associated with re-advertising a federally funded project would potentially place the project on the inactive list. It is staff's recommendation and jeopardize the funding allocation. It is staff's recommendation that the city awards the project to Hazard Construction, the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, in the amount of $3,472,358.25 with a 5% contingency for a total anticipated amount of $3,645,976.
I have a question,
Yes, sir.
Yasmin. The unresponsive bids, what were the issues with those bids? And the dollar difference between the lowest bid and this proposed bid?
The dollar difference between the lowest bidder was Granite Construction for a total amount of $3,330,000, roughly $142,000 lower than that Hazard Construction. The issue with that bid was that the bidder did not execute the proposal form. And also, they did not indicate how they propose to comply with the Buy American provision. So those 2 main items. The second low bidder was Daily Corporation, and Daily Corporation was roughly $135,000 lower than bidder number 3. And the issue with the bid from Daily Corporation was that they did not submit written confirmation from each DBE subcontractor stating the participation in the contract.
Okay, any other questions from council members?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I just find it unfortunate that, again, we're faced with a situation where we do have a local firm. And again, I myself, not being a contracting expert, understand that there's standards, guidelines, and compliance issues. So, I think I'm sure I'm echoing what's going to be shared here. It's unfortunate that once again we're in a situation where we're not able to not only look at a low bid, but also a local firm. But I would be certainly concerned at jeopardizing the entire project. I think that's pretty significant, especially when you're talking about the size and scope of this project to our airport. So with that being said, I think it's real important that we do ultimately do what's right and make this significant improvement over at the airport.
George?
I agree with the sentiment that Councilmember Wharton is expressing. I did have, I know we've discussed it in the past, but still I have some concerns with, obviously, I share the sentiment, but it is a big difference, $142,000, $135,000 savings we could afford the city. With respect to the concerns that the FAA had, what exactly, I mean, with respect to the timeline, how delayed would it be if we were to go out and rebid this project?
Typically, federal standards state that the project has to be advertised for 30 days. So by the time we put back together the specification, get reapproval from the Federal Aviation Administration, and we advertise for those 30 days, and we bring back the bid evaluation, involve the consultant, and issue the recommendation to FAA for award of the bid, it's about a 90-day delay. FAA staff stated that the city was supposed to issue a recommendation by the end of September of 2013. Which, if the bids would have, all the forms would have been filled completely, I think we would have been able to issue that recommendation by that time frame.
So we're beyond that time already, and any further delay would jeopardize the project?
Yes, sir.
The comment I have with this funding being assisted from FFA, by delaying it, if we're going to lose the funds, and that's a real problem, by delaying this and rebidding it, or there's a chance that we could lose all the funds for the whole project? The whole project would go away?
That is correct, sir. And in addition to that, we lose our track record with FAA for the construction of projects, and right now we just submitted our Airport Capital Improvement Program for the next 4 years, and we're in line for a separate grant for next fiscal year.
Yeah, and I do want to say that if it was just a simple fact of one of the contractors missing to sign on a line somewhere, something kind of simple, we could kind of grant them, an excuse for that. But some of the other paperwork that they failed to fill out, it's kind of hard to do that. And then the fact of taking the chance of losing the project completely and losing those funds, I don't think we can take that chance. So
I have another question. Yeah. Dennis, with respect to, and I know, again, we've discussed this before, but for further clarification, with respect to the other bids, considering that they're much lower, nearly $150,000 lower, considering the information that was missing from those proposals that were submitted, is there any way that this council could approve those lower bids, or were what was missing, was that too significant? In other words, we can't make that change.
The particular form with the apparent low bidder is called the proposal signature page, and has basically says so right at the top in bold lettering, and also says you have to, in more concise language, basically says you got to sign this, and if you don't, your bid will be considered non-responsive. So that basically is where we're coming from in terms of that. The law does provide that you can waive certain sorts of irregularities, but it's not recommended that you do so, particularly with respect to a form that says if you don't sign, your bid will be considered non-responsive.
Right. So we have another bidder that could challenge that, right, as well?
Conceivably, yes.
Yeah, and if not changing the topic here just a little bit, just for clarification, it is an FAA funded, or I should say grant, that is a 90-10 match. So I think it's important that $140,000 disparity, that's huge. I have no issue with that. I think we all agree on that. But I want to make it perfectly clear, it is not $140,000 of what would be city funds as far as the difference. It's a 90-10. So if you apply the 10%, $14,000, a lot of money. Not saying it isn't. But I think that's really important. Some people may. I want to make sure that the public knows that this is a 90-10.
Yeah, that was my point. If by delaying this, if you're going to lose that much money that's afforded to you by FFA, you can't take that gamble. I mean, you're talking a couple $1 million here.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No, I agree with my constituents here, and it's unfortunate that we always try to push, bids here locally, but in lieu of this, I'll move that we provide the project of 2013-14 to hangar area asphalt.
So award the bid to Hazard Construction Company, is that?
Yes. That's what it is. The motion, yeah.
It's a motion?
It's a motion.
I'll second that
All
motion.
right, I have a second. I'd just like to say before we vote on this that I agree. I did some research on this. I looked at this. I thought $140,000 is a lot of taxpayers' dollars to kind of spend on something where we have a lower bid. However, I would caution all people that bid for projects to make sure that their bid is correct, and then we don't have these kinds of issues. I do believe that we're going to have to go ahead and support this because I believe the FAA gave us special funding in order to do part of this from a previous year's, or there was some other type of situation where they gave us special funding and then added some additional funding to us to enable us to do this project. So I think the federal government has some limitations as to how far they can run with the money from previous years, and they have to get it spent. And so I understand all of that. It just kind of is a problem for me because of the whole thing of the $140,000, really. I mean, the local bid is a problem, but a bidder needs to make sure that their bid is correct before they submit it to us. And then the $140,000 is a problem that affects all taxpayers, both here in the city and out there in at the federal government level, because I know most of us, I think almost all of us probably in this room pay taxes. So that's my main concern. So, and what I want to do, I think overall we just have to look at our bid process. I think we have to make sure that we're concise in what we do. I don't know that we aren't. I think that we do everything appropriately. And waivers always are a problem because you set a precedent, and then everybody wants a waiver. Then the people that did it right, they don't like the waiver, and so we run through a lot of discussions. Whereas if everybody just does it correctly, everything runs pretty smoothly. So I think in this situation, I'm going to probably vote to support this. However, I do believe that it's a problem. Okay.
What's that about ripping up over there?
No.
I don't know. Tearing something up. Okay, so any
Motion
further
is,
discussion? We have a motion and a second. Any comment from the public? Okay, if not, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving right along. All right. 4C, award bid to Aggregate Products Incorporated for project number 2013-03, A Street Asphalt Rehabilitation Project in the amount of $438,181.
A Street Asphalt Rehabilitation Phase 1 involves the asphalt rehabilitation of A Street from Northwestern Avenue to North Imperial Avenue. This project is funded by the RSTP funds, which is the Regional Surface Transportation Plan. City staff advertised this project for competitive bids on September 11th of this year and received 3 bids on October 10th. After review by staff, it is staff's recommendation that the city awards the project to the lowest bidder, which is Aggregate Products, in the amount of $438,181.
Okay. Comment from the council.
I make a motion we approve this bid and respect staff's recommendation.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second over here. Okay, any further discussion? Any comments from the public? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. 4D, reject bids for project number 2013-09, Streets Rehabilitation Phase 9.
City engineering staff advertised the Streets Rehabilitation Project Phase 9 for competitive bids on September the 19th of this year. The asphalt rehabilitation scope for this project involves the application of asphalt rubber aggregate membrane, commonly known as ARAM. ARAM has very strict quality control checks to ensure that the project meets or exceeds its life of 10 to 15 years or more, such as having a close location to the job site to blend, mix, and react the components, the content of the crumb rubber, temperature, reaction time, viscosity, and more than anything, its application in our extreme weather conditions. Prior to bid opening, the city received an inquiry from a potential bidder regarding a requirement in the bid for a statement of certain performance history in order for the bid to be considered responsive. The engineering department issued an addendum with revised language on this particular form with the main intent to ensure that a bidder had experience with the application of ARAM in our extreme weather condition. In reviewing the proposals, staff concluded that the amended form did not solicit sufficient information to determine the bidder's qualifications. Staff respectfully requests that council reject all bids received on October 9th, 2013.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to say that when this took place, we really didn't want to have to rebid this, but I think it's the proper thing to do for staff. I think staff's done a good job realizing the fact that when you're doing a project like this, of this size, it would be awful difficult for a company that has not experienced these weather conditions in our area to come in and do a project like this, and for us to have problems later. I think it's only right to get clarification and rebid this project, Jasmine, and make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, to make sure there's no misunderstanding on what we as a city is expecting. Because a lot of times when you do projects like this with the companies that haven't experienced it, they mean well, but when they come in here and do it and get done and they're gone, and then you have a problem in the middle of July when the weather's 115 degrees and they're located up on the coast where it's cool and the weather is nowhere near what it is here, and then you call them to come back and try to take care of the problem, sometimes that can be difficult. So as much as I hate to delay the project and go back out to bid and get it started, I would rather do that now to make sure that things are straight and everybody understand what the nature of the project. So I appreciate staff doing that. Thank you.
I agree with Councilmember Campbell, but I also think that we need to be careful what we ask for. Otherwise, you have challenges. We have one challenge here today from American Pavement Systems, and it's expensive for them to work on bids, submit them, and then be rejected. So we have to be very careful what we ask for. I think it's in our best interest to be prudent and make sure that when we're submitting requests for bids, that information is accurate. Because I don't think it's fair for companies to spend their time, their money, because those things are highly expensive. They're thousands of dollars to have staff work, their own staffs work on them, and then for them to be rejected and start all over again. That's just not a fair item for them either. Okay, so I understand what Councilmember Campbell's saying, and I agree with that. We need to be, but we need to be prudent. We need to make sure that what we're asking for is accurate. Okay. I think that's very important, because now we have a company, American Pavement Systems, who sent us a letter, and they're asking the council to postpone the rejection of bids. So this is another item that we have to consider here tonight. So.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, and just to add on a little bit, obviously I'm echoing concerns. This all really just comes down to how we do business as a city. And I think it just as important as it is any business, reputation's everything. And I certainly, well, as I'm a part of this council, would want us to put always our best foot forward and certainly be known as a city, the kind of city that you do want to do business with. I think a lot of times that's how we attract the best contractors, the best services. And so, again, my concern's more of obviously how we got here. And I think that's been, well addressed, but I think it's important for our city to understand as a council. We're very concerned with that. But is it the right thing to do in this instance? Absolutely. We don't want to get to the point of no return. Only question I would have is this backs this project up. So what are the kind of timing impacts that, being that you stated that obviously weather's a huge issue with this particular project?
Yes, weather is a huge issue, as well as low weather, as well as high temperatures. The project, in talking with staff, the delay with the contract execution, it's probably about 60 days now, not related to the commencement of construction, because by the time we would have gathered all the materials and had a pre-construction meeting and issued notice to proceed, we would have encountered colder temperatures, and we would have had to postpone or issue a suspension to continue during the month of February. So in construction commencement schedule, we're not suffering delays. we are suffering delays in terms of contract execution, pre-construction meeting, and getting all the items in line to begin construction.
Understand. That's good to know, though. Thank you.
So if approved tonight, Jasmine, we're looking at a completion of this phase of project when?
End of April.
End of April?
Yes.
It's April.
Okay.
Okay.
Dennis had a comment.
You have a comment? Dennis?
Yes, I think that the council has already alluded to the letter
Right.
that was submitted to you by American Pavement Systems. Your contract documents always reserve the right for you to do what you're talking about doing, that is reject all bids and rebid the project. I think the difficulty that staff had with the way it was originally done had to do with our ability to verify the experience that I think the Public Works Director has alluded to in connection with an ARAM project. The American Pavement Systems, as you can see from the letter they submitted, basically wanted, and the letter speaks for itself, but in essence, they believe that they could submit information that would get the city where it wanted to be in terms of verifying experience. But in any case, staff is recommending that you reject bids, which you always reserve the right to do in your bid document.
And I hate to beat a dead horse, and I know we've discussed it, but for the public that hasn't been made aware, how are we avoiding this situation in the future? There was an addendum that was written out. It didn't satisfy our request for information entirely. So how is that being corrected? Was there changes to the bidding contract? What was the correction?
Yes, and if you could please provide an update on the development of the project experience form in consultation with our city attorney.
Yes, in consultation with the city attorney, city staff has been working, and we have a new experience form, and it also came about from the experience that we had and checking the experience from the ARAM subcontractor. The problem with the original form is that the ARAM subcontractor listed was not the same one that was going to be performing the job in our project. So now we have a new form that's had changed. Aside from that form, there were some addendums based on quantities that were issued. Those were already incorporated into the bid documents, and we're ready to advertise this project as early as next week.
Okay. Any comment? No. I would just echo everybody else's comments. I think it's very clear that we need to do what we need to do. What's the pleasure of the council? I'd entertain a motion, or?
I'll make the motion to reject bids for project 2013-02 streets rehabilitation phase IX.
I second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any comments from the public? Okay. If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Okay. Item 4E, review and potential action regarding sale of alcohol on city premises during scheduled farmers market dates. Richard.
Good evening. Mayor Couchman, members of council, and city staff. Richard Rubio, Parks and Recreation Director. For your consideration tonight, we have a request for council approval to allow the Brawley Chamber of Commerce to sell and consume alcohol on a city street on the dates listed on the staff report. The Brawley Chamber of Commerce, in partnership with the Boys and Girls Club of Imperial Valley, will hold their first in a series of farmers markets on November 23rd. After this first date, all subsequent farmers markets will be held on the second Saturday of each month. Hence the theme of the farmers markets. It'll be the second Saturday. The farmers markets events will be a venue to promote our local agriculture industry by offering farm fresh produce to the community, and we will also have local artisans as vendors selling arts and crafts and a variety of other items. The events are scheduled to run from 12 noon to 4 p.m. So we're here for discussion and seeking your consideration for approval.
I have some questions.
You have some questions? Go ahead.
With respect to the farmers markets, I know the request is to have the sale of alcohol at all the following dates, November 23rd, December 14th, etc. With respect to other farmers markets, do you know if there's alcohol sales at their events?
What I understand, Councilmember Nava, is in Imperial, in their farmers markets, I believe one date out of the series of events they do have alcohol sales.
Okay, so it's one date.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about the other events, Hopeville, Calexico. I don't have that information.
Is there a reason why only one day out of X amount of events?
I'm not sure.
Oktoberfest.
For Imperial, I think they do it for Oktoberfest, and so that's traditionally a beer drinking time, and I think that's why they set it up that way, and they only have the one date, is my understanding. You're right.
Then the time of day from 12 to 4, I understand the need for sales like at Chili Cook-Off and other events like that, but with farmers markets, the atmosphere is a little bit different. And so I would just caution council, if we're going to try that, just to maybe limit the number of times they give them the flexibility of when they want to do that, but maybe limit the number of times they can serve alcohol.
I would think maybe we need to look at maybe approving the first time and then reviewing that and then seeing how we go, and then maybe coming back and approve the rest, because I would like to see how it works. I think it worked real well for the Chili Cook-Off, but that's a little bit of a different type of event. I know that'll be happening for Mariachi, but that's a little different than Farmers Market, and we want to make sure that we keep these events friendly for children and for people that may not consume alcohol. So I want to make sure that all that works out, and also want it clear that everybody needs to be safe, and that has impact on our law enforcement and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we approve one, see how it goes, and then maybe we can do another review, bring it back for approval on another one or whatever. Because I honestly believe that I don't want to approve a blanket approval and then have things go wrong, and then we have to go and reverse that approval.
That's on the motion.
But
I'll make
there's a comment.
I'd like to just note for council's benefit that the applicant would be required, just as with any special event, to submit a security plan.
Right.
That security plan is subject to city staff's review, in particular our public safety members. I also wanted to note just briefly that we do have Jason Zara, Executive Director of the Brawley Chamber of Commerce here, in case you'd like to address him with any questions or give him a chance to offer comment.
The November 23rd date, which is this month, it may be too late for them to apply for a temporary liquor license.
In our recent experience in the last year, we've had pretty rapid processing times at ABC, including 2 days prior to the actual special event, if folks are willing to drive the request to Palm Desert and wait for a result.
The other comment that I have is that in this situation, what we want to see, I think, is that the alcohol sales begin at noon and end at 4, or maybe we look at different hours as we move along with this event, but noon to 4, and not extend past that point. In other words, what I don't want to see happen is an event that runs till 4 and then people are drinking till 6 or 7 o'clock at night on our city property. I just don't think that's real appropriate. So I think the alcohol sales run for the hours of the event, but then they end right then. I mean, because I would prefer people to go home, they need, or go somewhere else if they're going to drink, because I think it's for the event and that's primarily what it is, and I don't want a large boisterous crowd to continue their activities for hours after the event is officially over. I think that's important.
I agree. I mean, I think as a city council, we've been very accommodating to all requests for alcohol sales at city facilities for major events and, for concerts and for downtown events and those sorts of things. I think that's important. But a farmer's market's a little bit different environment, and I've done a lot of events downtown, and I don't know if and it's hard to say until we see the first few events, but I don't know if beer sales will be a major part of the attraction. I think most people, when they hear farmers markets, they're attracted to other things besides just the alcohol. So I wish them well, but I certainly would be in favor of approving the first event, and then just to see how that plays out and go from there.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the November 23rd, 2013. Go ahead.
I believe Mr. Zara wishes to offer some comments on the record, and I
Sure.
apologize for interrupting the
I
process.
do want to mention that at the chili cook-off this past Saturday, the Chamber did an excellent job. Cutoff time was 3 o'clock, and they shut down at 3 o'clock.
That's what we
So
want.
good.
I think
That worked
That's what
out.
we're really looking at. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jason Zara with the Brawley Chamber. I just wanted to offer one possible compromise that came to mind in light of what we did at the chili cook-off would be to maybe limit the farmer's market to craft beers. Those are, generally sold in bottles and cans rather than pouring by the keg. And they're also a little bit more specialty, a little bit more something, they're obviously not handcrafted here to truly fit with the farmer's market theme, but they might be kind of an appropriate something to sample, something that you're not normally exposed to, which is part of what the farmer's market is all about.
Right.
And that would also, I think, limit maybe some of the concerns about, people who are just wanting to chug
Sure,
chug big cups of keg beer.
If I could, Mr. Zara, while you're here, just also explain, could you echo probably what the Chamber as a whole, what the intent is? I see as anything that makes this event a success is something we should look at. So obviously, what's the enhancement with the beer? It's an attraction. Is it a necessary part of each and every one of these events?
To be completely honest, the beer sales were as much a necessary part of the budgeting process as they were of the attraction for the farmer's market itself. In light of your concerns, if we need to work around it, we'll find a way to make that happen.
Well, the reason why I haven't made a comment yet, and at the expense, hopefully, of restating the obvious, because I'm sure everybody here believes the same thing. We all wanted to succeed, so I just think there are considerations, obviously, that we have to look at. But I am in full favor of the case by case. But if it helps really enhance the event, I for one, I will make the comment. I'll go hang out somewhere if there's beer available, and regardless if I'm going to make a salad or not, or pick up some fresh produce. So
I've seen him hang out at Vaughn.
Yeah, I've seen him,
So, but with that being said, I think all the concerns have certainly been echoed. But I think it's important for you to kind of make the case a little bit for the benefit of the council of how that fits into the overall event.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd limit yourself to just craft beers. If you want to include those, I've done a lot of events downtown, and there's times where we've planned and we've purchased beer, and whether if it's keg beer and you tap it, you buy it, and if it's craft beer, then you have the option of trying to sell it back to the distributor or getting credit for it, right? So you don't take as much of a loss. But I'd still be in favor of approving, and it's up to you how you want to market that, if you want craft beer, if you want keg beer, but certainly give you that liberty and option to do what you wish. But I still would make the motion to approve the November 23rd, 2013 sale of alcohol for the scheduled farmers markets.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, if I may add one other thing.
Sure.
The ABC licensing official requirement is 2 weeks in advance, which we do have that 2-week window right now.
Okay.
But if we want to wait to evaluate after the November 23rd event, we would not have that 2-week window before the December 7th event. So if I could possibly ask for your consideration for 2 events, that would give us the opportunity to stay within their guidelines.
It's up to the motion maker.
And someone's made a motion, so we
have a motion and a second. Do you wish to amend?
I think,
your?
according to our city manager, I know that there is a 2-week time period, and I'm aware of that. That's why I brought it up for the November date. But I would still be comfortable approving the November 23rd, and I'll remain with my motion. So.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any further comment from the audience? If not, we'll vote on that motion. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
There you go.
And good luck.
Thank you. Maybe we'll throw in a lucha libre event.
There you go. Very good.
Okay.
December 14th.
Now we'll move forward to item number 5, which is departmental reports. Are there any departmental reports?
thought we were going to.
None this evening.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Informational reports.
At the request of Councilmember Nava, we have presented a summary of attendance for the City of Brawley's Parks and Rec Commission.
Okay.
We have had some difficulty with reaching a quorum. We are anticipating within the next 30 days to have the Brawley Union High School representative named. It is noted that our commission typically is populated with a number of city council appointees, in addition to two representatives from both the Brawley, or single representatives from the Brawley Elementary School District and the Brawley Union High School District. The council did act to name an individual to replace a previous appointee who had some attendance challenges. That individual was named in the month of September, and unfortunately, this last meeting, we were unable to reach a quorum, so she did not have an opportunity to participate.
Okay.
Looks like Lupe Navarro has missed.
All of them.
Yeah. Right?
Correct.
Right.
Well, we likely need to fill that position.
It was Maritza was replaced.
Maritza is the person who replaced.
Lupe.
Okay.
Tony Leon is the former BUHS appointee.
Councilmember Miranda, what's going on there?
What's our excuse?
And the high school is looking at replacing
Yes.
Mr. Leon, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's correct. Looks like we just need to
That's
get
right.
that in order.
Maritza was in September.
I think it's my responsibility as the mayor to send out a letter to them that states that if they miss so many, then they are no longer
They're
considered to be
automatically
on, they're really automatically removed. And so I don't want to take anybody off prematurely, but I want to make sure that we have quorums for these commissions and
With
things.
these letters that people that were appointed this past September, I provided a copy of
So we're
the government
we're
code.
good. Okay, so we're good with that. So I think we just need to keep an eye on this and maybe get this functioning.
Well, I think we need to address it. Councilmember Miranda, I hate to put you on the spot. I was previously on the Parks and Rec Commission. I know with your work schedule, it may be difficult to attend some of these meetings. Is there a need for your replacement on there? Again, I hate to put you on the spot like that, but I know that your work schedule
No,
is-
and I understand that. Those particular cases, I did identify Linda. Unfortunately, I was out of town, and on the 9th, there was a death in the family.
I understand.
Okay, all
That
right.
was only two, but,
So you don't think?
and then this last meeting, I had Dawn ready to go, but
They
lack of
cancel.
quorum.
Okay.
Well, if there is the need, I'd be more than willing to participate again.
And
so.
you're the alternate, right?
Yes, I'm the alternate. And I
So-
was ready to go, and they
Okay.
canceled the meeting.
All right.
Right.
So maybe it will correct as we move along. Any further discussion on this? If not, I guess we'll move forward. I think we've decided to forego item 7. I think we all agreed that we would take that up at the next meeting for our city council reports. How about city manager's report, item number 8?
Just briefly want to share 3 items. The first is that the County of Imperial, through its Community and Economic Development Department, has invited the city of Brawley, along with a number of North End jurisdictions, in addition to Holtville, to participate in a retail study. Ruby Walla and I will be sitting down with the county's consultant. It would basically be a takeoff of the sales tax information that's confidential and provided to us through our sales tax consultant. So we need to work out some of the details with regard to the county's access to confidential information, provided we can overcome those hurdles. Our hope is to have a study that identifies niche opportunities for the city of Brawley. So wanted to make you aware of that. Also, I'm not sure if Council or Mayor Couchman intends to give a little update on the future of the enterprise zone relative to the JPA's, whether or not it takes on a new life post dissolution of the enterprise zone, but we do have some information that we plan to come to you in the not so distant future.
Correct. And then that's related to the enterprise zone, which is a meeting that Rosanna and I attended. We're talking about how to carry that forward past the January timeframe. We did talk a little bit about extending the existing contract for the director for approximately 3 months. The county needed to go back and talk about that because their representatives, they only had one representative present, and they wanted to bring that up, I think, back with the CEO. And so they're still discussing that. We also talked about possibly doing something together to create some type of economic development entity or economic development person that would do some economic development for the county and the city in this region, and possibly include some of our other sister agencies out there and some other things. That's something that's just kind of on the drawing board, and we'll bring that back to you as we develop something on that. But that was pretty much the gist of it. As you know, the enterprise zone is ending, but there is some follow-up activity that has to occur, and so that's what we're looking at, making provision for that. And we do have a director on board, but if the director, since the time may be limited, if he leaves, then we've looked at a succession plan that we would adopt with the county in order to ensure that everything is done to close out that program, and so that's what we discussed.
So we basically have funded with city contributions. IID, City of Brawley, and the County of Imperial are contributors to this entity. We're funded through June 30. We don't expect that the obligations of the JPA will be so great that we need to keep the entity fully staffed through June. We're anticipating April is the likely cutoff, and then some minimal reporting. But the bigger global question that will be back to the council is whether there's an upside to keeping the JPA active, but repurposing it for economic development that's distinct from IVEDC or any other economic development initiatives in the region.
So we'll bring that back.
It's a preview of coming attractions.
Right.
Also wanted to share that I've got 2 items scheduled for City Council agendas in the not-so-distant future. I have received multiple requests to revisit the subject of the downtown specific with reference to sidewalks, and with council what the specific plan in our zoning ordinance allows and what the permitting process is for something different than that. I believe there is some interest in looking at a potential amendment to the ordinance. So that's coming to you in the future, as well as a complete summary of all boards and commissions, the attendance summary.
Okay.
For all those entities. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, item number 9, Treasurer's Report.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Ruby Walla, Finance Director. I'll be presenting this evening for Mr. Jim Hamilton, our City Treasurer. What you have before you this evening in the Treasurer's Report is to give you a summary and an update of our investments, a summary that we've been promising to bring forward. And I wanted just to give you our progress as far as what we've been doing with our investments. As you're aware, we've had all our money deposited in LAIF. Since then, we've reached out to the local community, CVB, Sun Community, and we've made deposits there of $1 million each. And one is a super money market account, and one is a CD, both at 1.01%. LAIF, as we close the quarter, is at 0.26%. And below that, you'll see is CDs that we purchased. When we initially started this, it was approximately $1 million, so we went out for $992. So we purchased 4 CDs at $248,000 apiece. The average return or yield on that, going from 0.5 to 1.2, is an average of 0.86%. And what we show below that is actual additional purchases that we made in CDs of approximately $2 million. We purchased 8 additional CDs. And that's just giving you information. It's not allocations that we've considered as far as the quarter, since it was purchases we made after the quarter. But I've given you those different CD purchases and the yields associated with those. And there included is the purchase date and the maturity dates, and those interest accruals are done on a semi-annual basis. So we'll have a more clearer picture on all the CDs here come in February, when I plan to update or have an update back to council again to give what our interest earnings and what our cash looks like. At the bottom, I gave a summary to give you an estimate based on the CDs, since we don't have their semi-annual accruals, so we don't have an actual amount to report. So we did an estimation there, which gives you at the bottom with the Community Valley Bank deposit, Sun Community deposit, and the CDs purchased just within that first quarter period, we're looking at an increased interest earnings about $4,100 just for the quarter through September 30th.
Good.
It's not bad.
Great. Any questions?
That's just from parking your money somewhere.
Yes. Any questions? Anybody have anything? Good job.
Good
job, Ruby.
presentation.
Thank you too, Jim.
Roseanne.
Thank you, Ruby. Very good. Okay. Okay. Item 10, City Attorney's Report.
I have nothing to report.
Okay. 11, City Clerk's Report.
Nothing.
Nothing to report. Okay, then we will go to item 12, closed session. We want to thank everybody for being here. I see our county supervisor there. Hold on, would you like to come forward?
Yeah, I know.
Mr. Kelly?
It's hard to get here on time.
Okay.
He's got his notes again.
I'm sorry. I didn't know you would, but go ahead.
So I wanted to let you know that the county approved a local preference, and it was different than the city of El Centro and the IID in that the local entity, the local business, has the opportunity to match anything that comes in. So if a bid comes in at $1 million, that if the local business is within 10% of that, they're able to say, well, we'll match that bid and take it. And so they'll have, once the bid opening, they'll have about 7 days before the board approves awards the bid.
Okay.
So it doesn't cost us any more money and allows the local business to be able to come in and continue to operate.
Is there a dollar limit, though?
No, there isn't.
There isn't a dollar limit.
And we had actually proposed a 5%, but the majority of the board wanted a 10%, and so they'll reevaluate it. But this is only going to be to general fund and county expenditures, not for public works projects.
Can't do the projects where federal or state money is involved, right? That's right.
It's a good idea.
That's good.
And then I wanted to thank you all for your attending, Mr. Nava, Mr. Couchman, and Ms. Moore for attending the Salton Sea Initiative. And I know Mr. Wharton was there for the congressional or the Assembly and Senate tour a few weeks before that. But that activity is moving forward, and I can tell you that the CEO and the general manager of IID will be meeting with the chief of staff of the governor's office next week.
Very good. Wow. Very nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now,
I've got a quick announcement for November the 11th. As a committee member for the Veterans Memorial Wall.
That's right.
Committee, want to invite council members and the public. We're having our Veterans Day Memorial Service at 5 p.m. here at the Veterans Memorial
November
Wall.
11th.
yes, I should have mentioned that invitation. I think it slipped my mind, but yes, they will have that on Monday. So we're certainly, everybody should plan to attend that.
At 5, right?
At 5 o'clock, 5 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
Richard, the paper says 4 o'clock. The one that,
We'll be set up at 4.
I think it actually begins at 5. We get times
You can send out a
times are all
notification
wild.
to council.
Yeah, we'll get it done. Okay. Sounds good. And so we'll move to closed session.